Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it. You already know. Like a torta with some bad habits. Bye up. Bye up. Let's get to this intro. Where's my hat at? Bang, bang. Welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. Put your notification bell on also. That way you're directing the direction of the dope content that the gun stays spitting. And I highly appreciate the support, man. Thank you. I'm very humbled. So, give me that homie love. Charlie. Homie love, right? Does race matter? Well, obviously, behind the prison walls, it kind of does. It kind of does, because if there wasn't those racial barriers, if you weren't kicking it with your own people, it would be pretty bad. Lost my voice. Let me tell you guys something, right? Dubs put out a video yesterday, and he pretty much challenged all content creators in the prison genre, anyone who's been in the California Youth Authority, to address and speak on a situation that was brought up. Homie love, right? It's funny because I called a brother yesterday, right? Talked to my homeboy, who I'll be doing an interview with here in a couple days. And he's a Paru. Oh, Paru, right? He's a Paru. We were actually in Nellis together in the Youth Authority. And I had just watched Dub's video, so I was already thinking about making this video right here. And I said, you know what? Let me run this across this brother, right? So I said, hey, bro, did you ever hear about homie love? He was like, I got a gang of love for my homies. I got a gang of love for all the homies, right? I said, no. And I kind of broke it down, what Dub's video said. He was like, man, who the fuck said that? He's like, man, them Serranos will kill your ass. I said, exactly. So, in other words, here we go. Having been in the California Youth Authority, it was a very complex situation, right? I was around a lot of different people, right? And there was a big racial barrier there. Blacks kicked it with blacks. Mexicans kicked it with Mexicans. Whites kicked it with whites. And it was just racially divided, because that's how California prisons and youth authorities are and were at them times, right? You didn't look at it like, oh, I'm a racist, so I'm only going to stick with my people, or I can't talk to those people. I talk to everybody myself. I grew up around blacks. I grew up with some whites. I grew up around a lot of people. So to me, it wasn't no thing to go chop it up with somebody, man. I could identify with the plight of everyone, because we were all going through some bullshit, right? We were all locked up in the same youth authority. We were all doing time in the same bunks, in the same fucking day room, in the same facilities, right? So to me, it was like, I don't understand why it's like the way it is, but I'm not going to rock the boat. I'm going to go kick it with my people, my brown people, man, and support from the distance, right? And we all did that. And it was all good. There was never no racial tension between the Northerners and the blacks. You know, there was tension between motherfuckers running their mouths on both sides, but there was never no tension because of the pigmentation of skin, or because how you grew up and I grew up, because we all grew up the same. That's the truth. And as I did time, I became more engrossed with the black and brown movement, knowing that, not saying we need to come together to fight the oppressors and all that, but more so like, man, we went through a lot of hardships. You might have went through something I didn't go through. I might have went through something you didn't go through. But our people, all our people, are related to the point, man, that we've been through some shit, you know? And that's just, no one's tougher, stronger, harder, or been through more than anyone else. You know what I'm saying? You as an individual know what you've been through. And yeah, you might have had a rougher life or a harder life, but that doesn't mean that man didn't either, no matter what color of skin he is. White, black, brown, don't matter, right? But whatever. I digress when it comes to the racial shit. As far as the racial makeup in prison, yes, there's going to be division. Yes, there's an understanding in prison that you need to take care of your own. And some people take it a little too far, and they start to go pro their own, meaning it's only us. We're the only ones that got anything going on. Excuse me. We're the only ones that got anything going on, and this is just the way it's going to be. That could be furthest from the truth, right? Everybody has their politics. Everybody is programming and functioning on their side of the art. Everybody needs to stick with their own people, because only your people got your back. And some of them don't even got that. That's just the truth, right? Dubs made a challenge yesterday, and I'm going to answer that challenge. Being from Northern California, having been in the Norteño movement for many, many years, having rocked and done time with Southsiders from Southern California, from LA to the IE to San Diego to the harbor area to South Los to Nela, Sela, all these dudes who I respect. I give them a lot of respect. See, I was one of those Norteños at that time that never disrespected the opposition. I knew what time it was, and it was business, nothing personal, right? But I understood that there wasn't no suckers over there. There wasn't no punks. These dudes were with the business. So I got to, doing time in Southern California and Nellis, I got to see how they rocked, how they rolled. I got to see exactly what they were about. And I seen some tricky situations, and I seen some real fucking situations. But one thing I never lost was respect for them brown men doing what they were doing, right? I never lost respect for the black men doing what they were doing, the Crips and the Bloods. And I fraternized and I associated with a lot of people, you know? And I think going to YA and going to Southern California was probably one of the better things I could have done in my gangster life, because it opened my eyes to people I did not know before. See, I didn't know the way they rocked in Southern California, nor did I care. And then I had to understand that I needed to care, because that's where I was doing my time at. So I needed to know their politics. I needed to know their reglas. I needed to know exactly what it was that made them tick and tock, right? No pun intended. I just had to know. And I started to learn and educate myself into the way they moved. And I realized, man, it wasn't too much of a difference from us. We might have had a little bit of a different swag, a different haircut, but we all go bald at the same time, or we bick it, right? Now, there's a brother, man. I don't know his particular name. I do, but I'm not going to put it out there, who made this video, and he talked about homie love. Okay? Homie love. He's basically saying that the Southerners, the Southsiders, were allowed or were fraternizing in weird behavior amongst each other, you know, sharing that homie love, and it was not frowned upon. It was all good. I'm here to tell you, and I'm not going to hold no punches. I'm going to keep it as real as it comes, man. Wow. I'm here to tell you, fuck no, right? Man, them dudes would never, ever indulge in that type of behavior. On an individual level, were dudes involved in some crazy shit? I'm sure there was. I didn't see nothing like that, right? I could tell you one incident. I'll tell you exactly that one incident, right? And I've spoke on it before, where I see some wild shit. And that didn't happen between brown and brown and black and black. That happened between black and brown. But we're going to get to that right now. But as far as this homie love narrative that this guy's pushing out, man, if that ain't racial hatred, I don't know what is. If that ain't hatred for the Southside movement, I don't know what is. You know, I never, ever heard that before. Oh, man, give me some homie love, right? That would have been wild, right? Look at, do you think if Southsiders were allowed to indulge in that behavior amongst each other and still be feeding, do you think the Northerners wouldn't have keyed in on that a long time ago, and that shit would have been all over the internet? That would have been the number one thing that the Norteños would have been saying about Southerners. Do you understand? Have you ever heard a Northerner saying that's been to the youth authority or to prison, say, hey, the Southerners are allowed to fucking hug on each other like that and do some other shit? Never. Because it's not the truth. You know what I mean? You might not like them because they're from a certain area. You might not like them because they smacked your homeboy backwards, right? You might not like them because they're the opposition. But, hey, you got to keep it real. You got to keep it gangster, man. You can't hate someone so much that you would make up a frivolous lie and try to convince the whole world that these dudes were allowed to fucking hug and kiss on each other. It's fake. It's just like that narrative that was put out there that Southsiders were allowed to snitch on blacks, right? Never happened. We're talking about a group, a fucking notorious, known, dangerous group within them walls, right? And outside of them walls. And you're going to sit here and tell me, who was in direct opposition to them, knife fights, fist fights, battery packings, putting rocks in socks, all that. We did all that against each other, right? And so if anyone should have some hatred and some lumps on their head, should be me. I got a fucking lump in the back of my head from Casper from Playboys. Fucked me up, right? So if anyone would be mad and spreading derogatory fucking stories and fake stories, it would be me, right? And I'm sitting here telling you, I'm not jockeying the Southside. I'm just keeping it real. I'm just telling you the truth. That brother's lying. That brother has bumped his fucking head worse than the homeboy bumped my head, right? Look, I'm going to tell you guys right now, there was never no such thing as homie love, Southsiders fucking allowed to do any of that. And there was never no such thing as Southsiders allowed to snitch on blacks. Did some probably do it? Probably so. Did some brothers snitch on them? Probably so. Did Northerners probably snitch? Yeah. There's a lot of people that probably told on a lot of people, but that's an individual. You can't base everything about that group and say, hey, the whole group is down to do that because one individual fucked up. We're talking about the Southerners here. The Southern raza. Them dudes will smack your shit back if you ain't got creases in your pants. Do you understand? I've been around them where I've actually watched a Southerner check his homeboy like, hey, bro, you got to get up to par. You can't be out here looking like a bum. I'm saying, you trying to eat crumbs with bums? You can't do that. And this dude literally go back to his building and come back out with some nice pants on. Like, they're not playing. They trip on every little thing. They hold themselves accountable because they are representing something way bigger than themselves. And I'm not going to get into what they're repping, but it's something way bigger than themselves. They are the extension of that. So there ain't no way they're going to be out on that yard telling on people. You know, I don't give a fuck if you're black or brown or white or green. No one in prison gets permission to tell on another group just because you might not get along with them or they might be your enemy. That doesn't work that way. Okay? I've seen plenty of people get whacked for telling on anybody. It's the way it works, right? So to hear this guy say Southsiders in the youth authority were indulging in that type of behavior, chale tamale, with an emphasis on the tamal, right? No way. Fuck no. And look, like I said, the Norteños would have been said something. They would have been like, man, you fools ain't shit. You motherfuckers was in why whoop-de-whoop. Have you ever heard it? You haven't, because it's untrue. And real gangsters keep it real G. You know what I'm saying? You don't get mad at a whole race and be like, oh, well, y'all motherfuckers, right? Because if we're going to take it there, let's really take it there. And I don't want to say that it was racially motivated, this brother man that said this, but it was definitely Southside motivated. He has some type of bias towards the Southerners. And I agree. Traditionally, man, we all think about the racial makeup of black and brown in Southern California. And there has been a lot of division in the past. There has been a lot of neighborhoods that went at it. But shit happens in Northern California as well. But you never hear anyone say, hey, Norteños are allowed to snitch on blacks. You never hear anyone say, hey, Norteños were in YA showing each other homie love. You never hear that. But you always hear that about the Southerners, right? And that leads back to the racial tension because there's so much division, so much hatred, and so much guerra that happened between these two groups, right? This certain individuals want to fucking throw it and say Southsiders were doing this. It's fake, right? Never happened. Fake news. Never seen it. I did a lot of time in Southern California, right there on Ground Zero and Fred C. Nellis, right? Right in the city of Whittier where the girls are prettier and the gangsters are walking around with the bull terrier and getting grittier. I seen it. Okay. And I ain't never seen none of that. The only time in my lifetime that I ever seen was not the only time I've seen a couple times, but I digress. The one time that I seen something wild happening didn't happen between two Southerners. It actually happened between a Crip and a Southerner. Let me tell you the story, right? So in Nellis, I was on a compa called Madison. Okay. When I first got there, they sent me to Truman. Truman was the reception. Basically, it was just one building, one little dorm. It was small. From there, I lasted there about a month, maybe less than a month. They shot me to Cleveland. Okay, I was on Cleveland. The guy I'm going to be interviewing was on Cleveland with me, right? The Paru. On Paru. That's back when Whack 100 was on Adams. And Sheik from Neighborhood Paru was right there on Cleveland with us. Man, I'm just on some real shit, right? No fake stories here, real stories. People that will verify and rectify. And so being on Cleveland, man, it was cool. And then they shipped 10 of us to Kennedy. We had a riot. We had a rally. We had to do everything we had to do with the Southsiders, man. Met a lot of good brothers, good Southsiders, good people, right? From there, they end up saying, oh, we're going to press a reset on this and we're going to send the Northerners to Madison. Now they got to break that compa. And they were sending Northerners to each compa to just like throw us to the wolves, right? So I went to Madison. I just happened to be one of those ones that kept sending from compa to compa. Why? Because I was willing to fucking defend myself. That's why. Everyone that just stood on a compa and never went anywhere is because they were fucking suckers, man. Straight up. They were scary. They were asking the counselor if they could just stay there. I didn't. Where are we going next, right? I didn't want to go. I was a young kid, but I had to go where they sent me. We get to Madison. Go through our little riots, little one-on-one behind the handball courts, all that, man. I'm not going to lie. The Southerners were pressing. They were trying to get us the fuck out of there. Administration wasn't bending, nor were they breaking. We weren't going nowhere, right? So after a while, they kind of just like, if you can't beat them, join them. They were just like, fuck it. They're here now. They're here now. We did our program. Southerners did their program. There was a lot of fraternizing, a lot of conversations, a lot of realizing like, hey, we're all brown, bro. You know You know what I'm saying? We shouldn't be going against each other, but understanding also that we were enemies and that if anything popped off, we're trying to kill each other. It's not hard. It's for someone that's never lived that life, you wouldn't understand it. Like, what the fuck do you mean here? You're cool one day and you're not cool the next day. That's how it is in this world. Your friends today won't be your friends tomorrow. That's a fact, right? Your enemies tomorrow might be your friends the next day. It's just a trip, right? So anyways, I had conversations. I actually befriended dudes from Azusa, from Clanton, from Florencia, from 18. Like, because me being from Northern California, there were some dudes that didn't give a fuck about us. Like, they didn't trip like that. And so we just happened to be in passing like you will, right? And the next thing you know, you say that so many times in a row, it's kind of like one word leads to another. It's like, how you doing, bro? Oh, I'm good, right? How are you? Then, hey, bro, you need a sopa? Yeah, boom, boom. And then next thing you know, it's like, hey, what's up, carnal? Right? You know what I mean? And it's just life. It's just our culture over everything. But don't trip. Don't get it twisted. If I would have walked by one day and motherfucker would have said, Strella, then I would have got off, right? And that's how that goes. Anyways, I'm there on Madison. One night we're in the dorm, and what they would do is when they shut down, that program shut down, they'd shut the lights off, and there'd be one cop in the little station, which was the cop station, right? And they'd basically be the night man or the night lady. And it was a night lady. Her name was Miss Cubella. I won't forget, right? And she was fine as hell. She looked like a mix between Halle Berry and Janet Jackson. Janet, but bigger than the goddamn planet, right? She was bad. Light-skinned, green, light green eyes, just a fine-ass chick, right? Black chick. See, I'm not racist. Shit, I love me a sister, right? Now she's walking around, everybody would be like this on their bunk, with eyes wide open, because damn, booty was bigger than the tail on the whale. See, when I freaked Michelle, homeboy, I freaked her well. Her got hotter than the flames in hell. Utterly too short, right? It was crazy. And so she would walk around, we're here, dum, 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 right? This is for La Raza and everyone else, right? She was bomb. There was rooms. There would be a short wall, and there was rooms, cells, 11 cells. And if you were lucky enough to get one of those cells, you were lucky, right? That was like for dudes that were programming, dudes that had juice, they were juiced in, whatever. So anyways, back then they would sell up anybody with anybody, except for North and South. They try to keep us separate, but blacks and browns could be sold up. Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. For everyone that thinks, oh, it's all racial, man, Southsiders and blacks don't ever get along. This particular night, they got into each other. Let me tell you. So this Vato, I'm not going to say his name, but he was from, I'll say his name. His name was Stranger, but I'm not going to say what Vato he was from. And there was a dude from, his name was Monk, and I'm not going to say what Crip hood he was from, right? But anyways, she's walking around doing it. What she would do is flash a light, make sure that they're in the room, not doing what these guys were doing, right? And all of a sudden, she's like, what the fuck? Get off of him. So we think a fight's going on. So everyone sits up, jumps up, and starts looking at everybody like, who's getting off so we can get off? That's just how it was, fight or flight mode, right? She runs, next thing you know, she runs to the office, turns on the lights, calls cops, are coming running in. We're thinking, oh, man, we see what cell it is, and we know it's Stranger and Monk. We're like, oh, shit. They snatch him up. They're both in boxers, and they're sweaty and shit, but they're not red. You understand? And so they take these two dudes to the hole, and she says straight up, this motherfucker was on top of this motherfucker doing some wild shit, right? Wild thoughts, right? I'm like, no way, right? We're all looking at each other. We're thinking, damn, Monk was doing the little Southern homeboy horrible in there, right? No, it was the other way around. I say that to say this. That's the only time I've seen wild. I mean, I've seen other people getting wild shit done to them, picked on and whatever. But that was the one time that I was like, wow. And I didn't see it actually. See it, she did, but she let us all know. And there was a lot of conversations being had in that next day. There was a lot of brothers that wasn't feeling that, right? But it just was what it was. They both came back from the hole. One dude got shipped to another compa. The Southerner got shipped to another compa. That dude came back and he was straight flamed up, flaming Cheetos, right? He was just like, he gave up the hood and everything, and he turned into, hey, we're the monkeys. Like, hey, isn't that the homeboy was Monk, right? And he turned into the homegirl Monk, right? Monk. His name was Monk now. And that was that, right? It was what it was. It was none of my business. But as far as like homie love Southerners being allowed to indulge in them type of behaviors with each other and being cool, that's a fucking goddamn lie, man. And that's one person, and I'm not going to say it's racially motivated, but that's one person who has an agenda to talk shit about the Southerners because he feels the Southerners are racial towards blacks. And look, there's going to be everyone from every different group that might not like another guy from another group. And maybe they might be racial. Someone might be, right? That's to each their own. They have to deal with that fucking personally. That's their fucking flaw, right? But as far as what Dubs was saying, is that never happened? He's absolutely fucking right. That ain't never happened. Do you think, and you have to think, be smart. Do you think in your mind that, Northerners and Southerners, you be seeing it on the internet going back and forth, all these youngsters going back and forth, talking shit about each other. Do you not think if this shit was going on, that a Northerners wouldn't have busted that out a long time ago? Oh, believe me, it would have been the first thing they said. Like, bro, you was in there fucking sucking each other's shoulder, right? Never happened. Come on, man. Hey, it's so petty. People that try to push that narrative and cause division between two groups. There's a lot of people that it's kind of like people that assume certain people like certain foods, right? You just assume, like, and I'll keep it real. You all assume Mexicans all like taco. We all do like tacos, but I'm just saying you assume that I might like Salisbury steak. I don't really like Salisbury. I like tacos, but we just assume that. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers assume brothers all like chicken, right? You know what I'm saying? That I know gang of brothers that do, but I know some that don't. I know some brothers that like tacos and some Mexicans that like chicken. But I'm just saying people assume that and they make it a racial thing. Okay? It's the same thing with them assuming the Southerners and blacks hate each other. It's just an assumption, and it's farthest from the truth. I've seen blacks and Southerners playing handball, getting along, all that, being homeboys, shooting each other soups and all that. I didn't see nobody fucking each other. Well, except for Stranger Month. They did fuck each other. But that, other than that, right? You know what I mean? That was their own personal endeavor. I'm just saying, man, to back up Dub's plan, I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm being real. I would tell you if it was real. Oh, I'd be the first one to tell you. That shit is crazy, homie love. The only homie love there is like, what's up, homie? I got love for you. But not that type of love, right? And if we want to really break it down, man, I could do a part 2 to this video and really explain to you. I could really, really explain to you the group that was really in there doing the homie love. We don't want to go there. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and strive for what I truly believe in. That's the betterment of all people, keeping it real, man. Hey, this video is sponsored by Vario Liquors. If you're in the Turlock, California, the Central Valley area, that 209, go over there. Pull up to the Vario, man. Go get you something cold to drink. It's also sponsored by Sticks and Stones Yard Service. If you're in the Arizona area, Google him, and go get your shit hedged up smooth, because a family man does it like a family man does it. Bang, bang.